All versions of the ACC9 can be found at the aircadetleague.com/library/forums website. Good day. This training video will cover the new 2020 version of the ACC9. There are various versions of the 2020 version, some with macros, some without. So this video will be working with the ACC9 with macros on. So the first thing that you notice is when you'll start up the new ACC9 is that you might get presented with the need to enable macros and enable content. You have to make sure you do this in order for it to work properly. One of the new features of the ACC9 is a nice little pop-up menu system, as you can see from the video here. One of the first things you have to do after you've enabled the content and the macros is to make sure that your regional parameters are set. And as this is shown on the screen here, it explains what they have to be set. This ensures that date and number formats are set properly. So just click on OK if you've got them set right, and you'll see we have a nice little pop-up menu now. Now, all this pop-up menu is a quick way to navigate around through the various work sheets that are in the ACC9. In the Setup tab is just the data setup. Under Transactions, we have the journals, transaction listings, detailed reconciliation of the account, and an account summary reconciliation. Under Tools, you can see there's quite a list of them, of various little tools that have been added into the new ACC9. The financial reports are the actual report pages at the end of the year that it gets sent to the provincial and national offices. The closing the year, again, is just some pages that you need of aid. You get the T3010 worksheet that'll help you do your T3010 forms to Revenue Canada. In Quebec, you've got the TP985 form, which is equivalent of the T3010. Your tax rebate calculations, your end of year numbers, and a budget estimator for the next fiscal year. As well, in this version of the ACC9 is a very detailed inventory system. So to start, we're going to start out with the data setup page. Now on this page, you can get back to the main menu just by this nice button that says main menu. And that makes it quick to navigate around the pages, especially with the large number of worksheets that are involved. So one of the first things you'll do is if you're going to set up for what language you're going to use. You have the ability to switch between French and English, and as you see, all the menu items have switched as we switched over. For this video, we're going to do it in English. So some of the basic information you're going to start with, we'll start on the right hand side, is put in your squadron number. So we'll just pick Squadron 1, 2, 3. A squadron name, which could be any squadron. And asking a number of cadets. So this is the average number of cadets in your squadron. Let's say we put in 100. Now the reason we put that in there is in the budget estimating, that number will help us to show the cost per cadet to run a squadron or the cost per cadet for fundraising. Under the current year's ACC9 information, you're going to put in your various bank account information. So let's say we have $10,000 in our main bank account. If you happen to have some money in the canteen, you would enter it, and if you have some money in petty cash. Now some squadrons, you have investments, various security deposits. You can put all that information in. And as you notice, we have a whole set of edit buttons here where we can actually edit the name of the account if you want. Okay, so this makes it, you can give it more common names that you're used to looking at, and it'll propagate that all the way through the ACC9. If you have some liability accounts, again, you would put that information in. Now on the left hand side is where we're going to be putting in the squadron sponsored committee information. So you would put in the squadron sponsor name, your mailing address, who your chairperson's name is for this reporting year, and their email. If there happens to be a registered charity, you would pick yes or no. Let's say yes. And you would input here your charity number and if you have a business number already. Some other questions that are asked, was the past year's T3010 done? Hopefully we'll say yes. And which provincial committee are you under? So today we're going to pick on Ontario. You would put in all the information for the treasurer, including, when they're going to be contacted. And finally, the commanding officer's name. Now, all of this information that you fill in gets propagated through the ACC9 and will fill in the financial reports at the end. So, it's a one-time, you fill it in and you don't have to worry about filling it later. Now, as we move down further, we're going to select the reporting year. Again, it's a drop-down menu and you can select what your reporting year is. For this one, we're going to do 2021-22. Date of your year end. Now, almost all provincial committees' year end is at the end of August. Quebec Ottawa Valley is the end of June. So, in this case, I'm going to pick June, or we're in Ontario, so let's go with the August one. So, August 31st. Now, one of the things we have in the new ACC9 is the reminder to do your backups. Back up a copy of this, because if you lose your ACC9, it's a bad thing. And strongly, as I suggest, is you do backups to external drives, USB keys, or to cloud drives. So, simple enough, you can pick what day of the week you want to be reminded about the backup and put it in. So let's pick Tuesday on this case. So the nice part is once that's set and you open the ACC9 up, and if it happens to be on the day when you open it up, it will remind you to please do a backup. Now, assuming you've got a perfectly balanced ACC9 from the previous year, there is some information that has to transfer over to this year, which is the total assets, the retained earnings, your surplus deficit, revenue over expenditures. So let's say from last year we had a total assets of $5,000. And you notice as soon as I put that in, on the right here, the information went from green to red. That's because the previous year's information is not balanced at this time until we get the rest of the information in. So if we had a retained earnings of $4,000, again it stays red. And then if we did properly, the surplus deficit revenue over expenditures would be $1,000. And we see now it's gone back to green and indicated that, yes, the ACC9 is now happy with the previous year's information. If you happen to have a current liability to worry about from the previous year, or if you used integer rounding to round up your numbers in your previous year's ACC9, this is where you would put it in. Then we'll go into tax information setup. So simply enough is to pick your province. If we were to pick Quebec, we would see that is a PST GST type province and does not participate in the HST program, and the tax rates are set. If we pick Ontario, we see that it is part of the HST program, breaking down the GST and the provincial PST. And finally, on this page, we're going to look at the previous year's deposits or checks that were put into the bank but did not process through the bank before your year end. So let's say on the last day of August, you went to the bank and you deposited some money, but it didn't show up in your August bank statement. So you would input that information into the deposits part at the top here. If you happen to have written checks near the end of the year that did not clear the bank before your year end, you have to make sure that those are listed here. Whatever you do, make sure you never re-enter those deposits or checks into the journals, because if they show up in the previous year's journal and you put it in this year's journal, you're double counting that money. Okay, so what you end up doing is anything that shows up as a unreconciled item from the previous year, make sure that you put it in here. And that is how you do your data setup for the year.